Hey, welcome to the Birth Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Congdon, and I am here today with Alyssa Knapp, owner of Integrative Wellness Journeys. She's a holistic business coach, and we were just chatting before I hit record, and we have some gold for today. Before we get started, though, I'm going to let you talk a little bit about yourself and sort of how you got here. And I honestly can't even remember how we met. We met maybe 2 years ago.
I was trying to think of the year too.
COVID? Was it post-COVID?
So I was trying to remember the same. I was going down the same rabbit hole trying to remember. I know Melissa Bowley introduced us. That I do remember. Yep. And I think this must have been around the time that I was launching Reiki Like a Mother. I think that's what it was, which means that it was 2021 because that was when I had my second son.
Okay.
So 4 years ago, which is insane. Yeah.
Time flies.
Yes. Time is something. It is something. So it's actually really funny because Jody, I feel like you and I both kind of started in a similar way where we began our entrepreneurial journeys in our trade, right? Mm-hmm. Like doing the work. And then we both sort of took this route of actually helping other people do this work because we learned so much in our experiences. So just to share a little bit about myself and my journey, how I ended up here. So I started in the health and wellness industry. So for about 15 years, I worked in health and wellness. My master's is in kinesiology. I was an certified exercise physiologist, clinical health coach, worked in corporate wellness, like all of those things. And where I really loved to integrate was the mind-body piece, right? Psychology.
Which is so important and it's so overlooked.
Yeah, so overlooked. And then what happened was during my corporate journey, I got introduced to Reiki energy healing. And I think you've done your level 1, right, Jody? I'm trying to remember.
I have. I think we talked about that.
We did. I think so too. Yeah. So I got introduced to Reiki. And for me, my science brain really needed to understand energy. So that forced me to go down this whole rabbit hole of understanding energetics and spirituality. And then I began to really understand how each of these pieces really work together. Our physical self, our actions, right? Our bodies, and then our mental aspect, our thoughts, our beliefs, our psychology, our emotions, and then the spiritual aspect, which is our energy, right? So as I went down this rabbit hole, I ended up launching my business I launched it in 2018 and I went full-time in 2019. And at the time I was really piecing together each of these different elements. So I was helping people with lifestyle coaching, which I love coaching. I just love coaching. And then I was doing these mind-body physical practices like integrative stretching classes, I called them, functional fitness. We're really bringing people into their body as they strengthened and all that, because obviously I know that's such an important piece. And then meditation, mindfulness, and Reiki. And I started teaching classes and things like that. So during this process, I learned so much, right? I learned so much about business. I learned so much about marketing. I learned so much about what not to do.
Yep.
Because of all of the things.
More important than learning what to do.
Yeah, it is. I say to my clients all the time, you're welcome. You're welcome. I walked on the hot coals for you, you know?
I struggled. I laugh about this all the time because, I struggled for probably 2 or 3 years to get my agency kind of put together. And I don't like to say I wasted time and money, but I spent extra time and money figuring out a lot of things that did not work. And you're very welcome, guys, for putting together a program where now you have this sort of step by step, and there's a lot of options because everybody's different and everyone wants their business to be different, but a lot of what just doesn't work. A lot of what won't work, a lot of what your clients don't want from you, in terms of just, user ease, right?
Right.
And so, so you have to kind of take that journey and kind of feel the pain, walk the coals, so someone else can have it easy.
Exactly. Yeah. So through all of that, I ended up, I started, I think 2019. Yeah. I'd started teaching Reiki. So that's where I started that journey. And then what ended up happening over the years, as I continued to work with my clients, was it sort of got away from just getting them out of quote unquote pain. Mostly it was emotional, right? That's usually what people would come to me for: anxiety, depression, things of that nature. And then it was really more about aligning them to their purpose. And as people started to align more to their purpose, they started to heal from all of the conditioning. They started to come back to themselves. They started to realize they were here for more than just whatever shit they were doing, right? So then as the teacher that I am, because I'm at heart, that's what I am. I just love to teach. I love learning these things, breaking it down, making it simple. And this, I love like the step-by-step process. And I think our frameworks are very similar, because same thing where I have sort of like, these are the steps that you take, but because we're all different, this is an avenue that you could try based on who you are, all this stuff. Right. And, so I started then teaching more of the business aspect of things, like as I had learned them. And in 2023, January 2023, I launched my first business mastermind, and it was called Reiki Like a Boss. And it was a spiritual business mastermind where I was like, you know what? This isn't about teaching Reiki like as a practitioner, like for you guys to use this, but it was more about how to use this and other tools like human design, working with the moon cycles, like things of that nature, how to actually use these tools for yourself so that you can show up and be the person who makes the aligned decisions and the informed decisions. And then we got into this is how you build, this is how you build a client journey, and this is a lead magnet, and this is how you create your offer. And then, getting into like all of those things, right?
Because they have to go side by side. Like, I think, and you probably agree, the reason why, like, you're very good at your craft, right? You're very good at what you do. And you realize that a lot of people desire your services. And then you go to yourself, I only have two hands. Like there's only a certain amount of hours in the day that I can do this. Like, how do I care for, how do I serve a larger group of people? And then what ends up happening, and you're just like, oh, I don't know enough about business. I don't know what the difference between growing and expanding and scaling is. Like, oh, a bookkeeper. Like now I have so many other things coming in, so it's like, you have to evolve in, I want to say the accompaniment of your craft, but like you have to, if you build them simultaneously, and then you turn around and say, okay, I'm not the only one who's excellent at this and who should, who needs to know more about building a business. So then you turn around and you're serving your clients in a very different way. You're teaching them the craft, but then you're also teaching them how to get out there and build something with that.
Right, exactly. And one of the things that I teach too are like the 3 phases of business growth. This is just the way that I look at it and that I see it. So the way that I see it is 3 phases: the discovery phase, the alignment and growth phase, and the mastery and then really leveraging your strengths. So the discovery
I love that
phase,
word, leverage.
Yes. Because I think the discovery phase is so overlooked, because I think what happens so many times in entrepreneurship is you start and you just want it all to be done. Like you just want to already be there. You already want to be great at it. You already want a full book, right? You want all of these things.
The first thing you're taught is like, get as many clients as you can. Like, how do you get a client? Times that by 100. Like, and then you're just like, okay, like that's overwhelming, because now I'm working so much more than I wanted to and neglecting other things.
Exactly.
Like yourself.
Exactly. Right. And then that perpetuates the cycle of not having the energy or not being able to focus, and then finding yourself continuously stuck. And then you just abandon it. Right. And then you just abandon shit because you're like, this isn't working. So at first, if we can just give ourselves that permission to be in that discovery phase, to really learn the craft, to really get really good at what you're doing, to really serve your clients and show up as your best self, focusing on that is going to really pay off in the long run. So once you really start to discover who you are and discover what you're here for, right? And I'm not sure, I'm really curious, like in the doula world, how much like niching there is. Obviously it's moms, right? I don't know if there's still other degrees or layers that go in there.
Lots of layers.
I'm sure. I'm not surprised.
We have, doulas that work with multiples, that work with single parents by choice, that work with, 2 moms or 2 dads, or surrogates, or, families that adopted, previous trauma, IVF, previous losses. I mean, like there's so many things. And I think that some people get into those niches because they've had that experience. And some people get into those niches because they happen to have one client that they connected with and that they adored them. And that client has a community of, let's say it's, parents of twins. They have a community of all moms of multiples, right? So they talk about their doula to the moms, and then every client has twins. Like that's, so it's sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's just by accident, but you end up loving it, almost becoming an expert at it, because you need to up level your services
Yes.
now, because now you're kind of working with this one population and you want to know all the things, and you're only one person, right? So I mean,
Yeah.
you have to say no to some people, and then maybe
Right.
you're scaling, like, so it's, yes, there are definitely niches. That's the
Yeah,
word.
and this is the mastery part, right? Like this is the mastery part, and this is
Mhm.
really the alignment piece. So first, giving yourself that time and that space to discover, right? Like, is it like, what do I love, or what do I seem to be really good at that people are asking me for, that I actually enjoy doing? And these are always really important questions to be asking
Mhm.
along the way, because I think what else can happen, especially if our mind is driving the bus and not our soul or our heart, right, or gut, right, like the body and intuition really driving these decisions, you might get stuck also in business making decisions and taking actions based on what you think you should be doing because
Mhm.
XYZ, right? And
Mhm.
then you might find yourself in a place of resentment or even burnout because you're not really expending your energy the way that your soul on a soul level is really like intending to do. So,
And that happens
yeah.
a lot.
Oh,
I hear
yeah.
that a lot. Like, doulas will say, I have a bigger vision. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not that they're not doing what they want to do, but they're not doing it like in the depth that they want to
Right.
be doing it. They feel like things, are more surface, and they want to like dive in, and they have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that a lot too. Like, you could be doing more type of thing. Especially when the need is there. And, for our postpartum community and our, prenatal community, the need is so there. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there is more need than there are, people to take care of those needs, for
Yes.
sure.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And especially like a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with too, I work primarily with holistic practitioners,
Mhm.
and there's that creative desire also, that like creative part of you who really wants to tap into that energy and has these ideas for these new programs or these new
Mhm.
services or these new things that you can be doing. And then sometimes that can also get overwhelming because then you feel again stuck. You feel
Yep.
stuck because you have to deal with what's on your plate already and you don't have the time or space to do it. Then you see Susie Q over here launching it and doing it, and then you're
Mhm.
feeling all the feelings, right? And it perpetuates. That's why it's so important, and we talked about this a little bit before you hit record. This is why it's so important to structure our businesses in such a way that gives us
Mhm.
time to create that space, to have those. I
Yep.
know you have these, Jody, to have a CEO day, right? To have
Mhm.
a day where
Every
you really,
Wednesday.
yes, where you're really mapping out and looking at your schedule and really saying like, okay, like where is this next project going to start?
Mhm.
I personally, quarterly planning is my love language. I love quarterly planning because, right, just looking at the year within those chunks and within those seasons, and then being able to say, okay, during this quarter, this is what I'm going to be focusing on, whether it's that offer or this project or that thing. And then as you get those ideas and these things or needs that you see out there in the community, you add them to your list. And then when you sit down to go and do your planning again, you can say, okay, where's the space now, right,
Yep.
for this next thing to come in. And also understanding too that, not every idea is meant to be move forward with too, right? Some
Right.
of
Right.
these
Right.
things you need to sit with, you need to marinate with, and really understand like where it fits within the puzzle. But anyway, I'm getting off on tangents here.
But no, I mean,
Yeah.
what kind of strikes me with that is there's a lot of doulas who do something else. They
Mm,
are exceptional at something else, and they want to incorporate that into their client work.
yes.
And it could be Reiki, but they're finding that they have no takers. And my answer to that is there's a whole community of people who would want that out there. You're just not finding them. So like, let's circle back to like, who are you marketing to? Who are you networking with? Are you networking with an OB? Because like that might not be the best person who is going to trickle down and say like, I have this handful of clients who would benefit from Reiki. So now you might want to switch your networking to your local chiropractor who specializes in bellies and babies, and that's a more hands-on person who has time to discuss stuff with you and cares about your emotional well-being and your spiritual well-being. And I'm speaking about my chiropractor, but that's, I mean, and that's, so it's like something is not like lining up along the way, because there is an entire clientele who wants your services.
Oh yeah.
So people get bent out of shape, and then they end up not doing it. And then they're not just being true to the things that they love, and true to the things that they can offer clients that could really benefit from their services. And then they end up going back to a 9-to-5. Like it's a cycle. I see it all the time.
Yes.
You know, and it reminds me of, and it's funny because, you know, I didn't know this at the time, and now I do know it. With my oldest daughter, at 42 weeks on the dot, they were like, ooh, like, you know, fluid levels are low, like come in tonight. And I had, you know, cervical ripener and Pitocin and an epidural, and it ended up being beautiful and fine. Like, don't get me wrong. It was, you know, the shaping of like my motherhood. But it's like, I look back now and I'm like, classic, like classic. But I didn't know any better. So, you know, I did all the things and whatever. Had I known about options, had I known about choosing, you know, people to take care of me that were better suited to like what my needs were. And then I went on to have 2 home births and like found my people.
Yeah.
But you don't know what doesn't align along the way to get you the result that you want, you know, until you've experienced it and you're like, okay, I need to change like A, B, and C. And I really do equate that to like, you know, finding the right community to talk about your services to and to care for.
So
and it
true.
helps you. It makes you love what you do and flourish at what you do, and ultimately continue to grow your business so you can continue to, you know, do what you love, be happy, feel fulfilled, but also like you're fulfilling the needs of the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that comes to mind with that too, and this might be helpful for listeners. So right now I'm in the middle of an irresistible offer accelerator. So it's a program that I'm putting on for my clients. And this is something that's been coming up this week. And I think it really aligns to what you're talking about. And one of the things that I'm hearing a lot of people say, and this might relate to some of the doulas out there who are wanting to integrate other modalities and practices that maybe are outside of the scope of traditional doula work, and maybe feel like their voice is falling flat, or they're falling on it, you know, speaking to an empty room, right? Or nobody's biting and that sort of thing. And one thing that can be really helpful is to, instead of looking at it from the perspective of trying to explain yourself or explain what you're doing or the methodology, thinking about who actually needs it and who is the person who is open to it and who is the person who is open to the referrals. So just like you're saying, right? Like finding those aligned referral partners or those people who already are going to have that mindset, and then using that language, right? And then really speaking to them, especially when it comes to like their marketing and their content and things of that nature.
I'm big on articulating value, and I'm not even talking about the price tag, like the value of the services you're providing for somebody's mental and emotional wellness.
Yeah.
Somebody's, you know, opening up to creativity, like whatever you're focused on, like that's the value. It's not, you know, why are you spending $85 an hour on this? That's not what I'm talking about when I talk about articulating value. And sometimes it is, right? Sometimes you have to make someone realize, you know, the investment and why it's worth it. But a lot of times it's the value in how you're going to feel after, you know, what it's going to look like for you after.
Yes, totally. Yeah. So then kind of coming back to, I think, our original topic for today, which was,
I was just going to say, I'm like, we are off topic. We are
way off topic. Not surprised. And I'm not mad about it. Right. So, okay. So our original topic was really about simplifying, right? Like simplifying, streamlining, and automating. Yes. Because as our business grows, there are 2 directions, and sometimes they happen side by side, right? One direction is you get so busy and you have so much on your plate that you then get overwhelmed. The other end is that you've created so much space because you've increased your ticket offers, and now you have all of this time and you don't really know what to do with it, right? Yeah, she's like, it's me. Yeah, exactly. So first and foremost is really understanding the processes, right? Like really understanding. So these are the 3 buckets that I sort of like put things under when it comes to our systems and our processes. The first one is administrative, right? So understanding and look at your business within these 3 buckets is going to be really, really helpful for everybody listening. And this is also true for every stage of business. So whether you're just starting out or whether you're growing and scaling, either way, understanding these different buckets is going to be really, really powerful, because I imagine when you're getting your doula certifications, they're not teaching you much about business, right? Like, I know it's not the case
It's
with,
hard. It's
yeah,
hard because
yeah,
I teach postpartum doula training, and there's so much in the course that is about being an actual doula. It does not leave a lot of time,
sure.
for the business part. So I try to touch on the most important pieces. But what I want to say before you continue is that I think when people start out, they say a lot of, I don't need that yet. I don't
Right.
need to be doing this yet. And yes, you do. When you start these solid foundational pieces from the get-go, and you don't have to, invest a ton of money. These are just, strategic things that take a little bit of time and organization, right? The scaling piece and the growing piece will be without the growing pains, that normally come with business, because you'll be set up for success. So if you grow fast, you're not going to be scrambling to get your systems in place. You will already have been organized from day one, and you may not utilize all of these things yet, but they're in place for when you need them, and they're ready
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. And they're going to evolve.
Yes.
Right? Like, I'm working with a client right now. She's on her second iteration of scaling, and it changes. Like, new level, new devil, they say. Right? Like,
I love
every
that.
part. Yeah. But you're absolutely right. By starting and putting these things and these foundations into place now, you're really growing in such a way that it's putting you in a better position.
Mhm.
And it gives you more time and freedom to then be able to jump on those creative urges when all of a sudden you get this idea or this realization or this bigger vision that you're ready to start working towards and moving towards. So,
And time freedom is
yeah,
what everybody's looking for.
it
Time
is.
freedom and, the money piece. Those are the
Yes.
two biggies.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That we
yeah.
all grow our business to have. We
Yes.
want more time for a lot of things, and we obviously want more money, which transitions into freedom of its
Right.
own. But yeah, the time piece, it's like a blessing and a curse.
Yes, it is. It is. Yep, exactly. So the administrative piece. So the administrative piece is really understanding, like, what are those back end pieces of your business that you need to
Yep.
run. So some of the things that I see overlooked a lot are like a really disjointed onboarding process for new clients,
Yep.
offboarding process for new clients,
Yep.
right? And in each of these different things, payment processing, bookkeeping, appointment scheduling, like reminder emails, reminder messages, things of that nature. And even if you're not in a place like Jody, like you were saying, of not needing yet, like maybe you don't need a honey book yet, or you don't need like a go high level yet, or something like that. Just having it literally written out in an SOP, a standard operating procedure, like this is what I recommend to every entrepreneur. Have a Google Doc Bible
Where
of
you
all
can
of your
copy and
steps.
paste as needed.
Yep.
Yep.
And,
100%.
yep. And just collect and write down all of those steps, right?
Yep.
Each of those pieces, all of those things, like what is the process? That way, when you're going through and you're onboarding a new client, you're not sitting down, you're like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. You're not fishing through your inbox for what did you send your last new client and copy and paste it, right? No, you have everything already set there, which is going to save time. And it's also going to make you look a lot more professional because you're going to have your shit together,
Nothing worse than sending something and realizing you used the wrong there.
Or name. If you copied and pasted wrong name. Woof. Yep.
But when you have things that are, canned emails or pre-written in a Google Doc and you're copy and pasting, you've already checked the spelling, you've already checked the grammar, you already have read it out loud, it's beautifully written and it sounds very personal. You don't have to do it on the fly and then forget if you did or didn't do it. It's worth it, and it's a small time investment. You only have to do it once.
Yes, right? Exactly. And then as you grow and as you see more clients and all of that stuff, you're also going to understand more what people need to know up front. Right? From there, you can revise your intake form because now I need to make sure I also ask these questions or know these things, right? So having all of these as processes and as steps is really going to save you a lot and help you grow in so many different ways. And then the next pillar, so the admin is one, and then the next one is service delivery. So the service delivery, this is where, again, these would be things like maybe what you're doing at each of the different sessions when you're meeting with the mom or the family, like before the birth, or I didn't even have a doula, so I'm just making these things up. I don't really know what happens with you guys. But so what's happening maybe during or after or whatever, those different things, because everybody has their different secret sauce, right? Like I'm sure there's no two doulas who are exactly the same. I'm sure
True.
everybody does something their own way, their unique flavor, or if they're integrating and bringing different tools and different things into this. So what is your process with your service delivery? Because
and it can be so personalized. I think that's
Yes.
why people get so nervous about this, or like, I don't want to sound robotic. It can reflect your personality for sure.
Exactly. And then also this really helps you to be able to track your progress better also, right? Because then all right, by this time, this is what we can expect. After this, like this is the outcome that we expect. And it helps you perfect your craft, become a better practitioner, doula, right? And then help you grow and help you understand and maybe even see like where are some gaps, where might be some other pieces that people need that they're not already getting. And then
Right.
the last piece that I always recommend everybody systemizing is the marketing and the sales piece, right?
Yes.
So this is the part where oftentimes, especially I tend to work with a lot of heart-centered entrepreneurs, right? People who have a really hard time selling or a hard time charging or a hard time talking about money or asking for money.
That's doula care in a nutshell. Like,
Yeah. Yep.
It's such a heart-centered, heart-focused, like personalized, sensitive service that people have a hard time like selling it hard and justifying putting a price tag on it. And it sounds so harsh when you're like, these are business transactions. Like,
yes,
you're not their bestie, like you're not their sister, like you are a hired person. You are doing these services in exchange for a monetary value. Like, and that's hard. That's hard, especially in doula work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, like, within all of these, there are always layers that we have to pull back. There are always mindset pieces that we have to address and touch upon within here, because what's holding you back is not just doing the thing, because doing the thing is not complicated. It's not, like you said, it is as simple as a transaction. Not that has to be heartless. It's just a fact.
Right.
It's just a fact, right? But the emotions and the mindset and the mind drama, that is often what can keep us from moving forward. So for me, one of the things that I found has been really helpful for myself, for my clients, is really just understanding the key steps within all of this that help just bring more safety, right, and ease to the process of marketing and of selling. So like we talked a little bit before about networking, right? Like, all right, these were maybe the type of providers, the type of circles you want to find yourselves in, like, right, to find the right clients. So if networking is part of your marketing process, and then we want to understand the other pieces, because we need a well-rounded ecosystem for marketing, right? So we're not just relying on one area. Maybe that's social media, maybe that's email marketing, maybe it's a combination, maybe, right? There are many ways that we can really put together like a marketing ecosystem, but understanding what are those steps. So, okay, if you're connecting, you're networking with somebody, that's not one time that you're meeting them. You don't just have coffee with them one time and then it's done, right? You also want to continue with these relationships and those sorts of things. So maybe it's every so often you have your list of people who are like the perfect referral partners, like the perfect providers to send you to. Maybe it's every month or every quarter you're sending an email. Hey, how's it going? Just wanted to check in, right? Or whatever, or what's new in your world, right? Or something. Staying top of mind, because staying top of mind is always how they're going to remember to refer you to, right? I mean, this is not a blanket statement, right? Like, it's all different, but I know for me personally, like, if you ask me right now, hey, Alyssa, I need a Reiki practitioner. I know hundreds, like I probably legit know hundreds of like practitioners, right? So for me, I'm going to go the person who stands out the most in my mind. And so you want to make sure that you're standing out the most in their mind. So having these processes is going to be really helpful, because you want to leverage your work and you want to leverage your energy. And if you're using time, because networking is time, right? It's a big cost of your time, right? To put yourself out there and to have these connections and make these connections. So you are going to grow a lot faster if you are strengthening these pathways instead of constantly creating new ones. So
it's quality,
right?
Not quantity.
Absolutely.
In the networking department, for sure.
So true. So true. Yeah. So some other things. So lead generation. So understanding your audience, building your content, right? Then the nurturing leads piece, right? So there's your emails or whatever, right? Maybe it's DMs, like depending on what your process is. I already mentioned networking. So making sure that there is a system and a process for that. And then sales. And then the sales piece. So what does your sales process look like, right? What is the process? So maybe they're reaching out, they're filling out a form, and you're having a conversation. And maybe that's where it begins. And then understanding also how to have that sales conversation is really important, right? And I guess for doula to work, I guess it might be a little bit different, because I guess no matter what, they're having the baby, right? Like no matter what, they're having the baby. So it's not like they can fix that problem on their own, but still understanding, right? Like, yeah, go ahead.
But they can choose someone else. Like, it doesn't have to be you. So it's like,
right.
How do you articulate that you're the only person that can do the thing that they need you to do, right?
Yeah.
You're the best option for the outcome that they're looking for, or like the experience that they want.
Yes, exactly. So knowing who you are, having that strength in belief in your value, in your gifts, and all of that stuff is so important. So
but the other half of that is, though, so there are doulas on here. So we're talking about, like getting clients, but there's also doulas who have courses and, trainings or ebooks or whatever other things they're selling. And they could be selling it to their, prenatal and postpartum clients, like could be like a childbirth ed thing or, lactation or sleep, counseling. But they also could be selling to other doulas, other birth professionals. Maybe they've created, one of my good friends who's a colleague of mine is almost done creating a course that is advanced overnight care. So that will be geared towards professionals, right? Other doulas will want to buy that to level up on their overnight care. So they're selling sometimes to two totally different audiences.
Oh, that is so true, Jody. You are opening up a can of worms here.
I know.
Yeah.
What's different about it is your perinatal audience has a very finite amount of time to buy either your services or your product or whatever. The professional lifetime, is longer. They may not buy it this year, but they can buy it next year when their business starts to get, really moving and grooving. And it's a totally different, what's the word I'm thinking of?
It's just a different pathway. It's just a different
pathway, but it's a different nurture.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And differentiating those is so important, right? And understanding too, and this is where it's really helpful to understand. I'm sure you teach the multiple different ways that you can market yourself, right? And do business and grow your business. Because you might be really successful as a doula, but then you go to launch this thing and now you're marketing to other doulas, to other professionals. And it's a completely different beast. It's a completely different thing. So each of these things is going to take their own system, right? It's going to be a separate process.
Totally
for
different.
Each of these.
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different. So once you have, so I usually say to people, right, like, all right, now you have your 3 buckets. Like, these are your admin tasks and processes. These are your service, right? Like what you're actually providing. These are the things that you have to do within there. And then your sales and marketing, right? And those growth pieces from that perspective. So once you have your processes there, then we talk about time management, right? So first of all, you're much better off. You don't want to just have a list and willy-nilly go to your list. All right, I have a few minutes. Let me go to my list and see what has to get done. I recommend planning ahead of time. And this doesn't work for everybody. So if this works for you, take it. If not, obviously, you know yourself best. But for most people, you're going to be a lot more efficient if you're looking at what you have to get done before you have that free time ahead of you. That way, you're going to know exactly what needs to get done. So what I do, I love blocking, like time blocking and color coding and all of that stuff. I actually use a really great task management system called Sunsama, and it integrates with my Google Calendar. It integrates with my Trello board, which is what I use with my OBM, my online business manager, where we keep track of like projects and tasks of things of that nature. And I basically categorize my things based on these things. All right, these are the admin stuff. This is the client management stuff. This is the business marketing stuff. And then you want to chunk time in your week so that you're getting all of those things done at the same time, because you're going to minimize time wasting on task switching. Because every time you're task switching, how long does it take you to do it, right? Like, let's say, for example, you want to record...
A lot longer than people think.
A lot longer.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and one of the things too, I think, I talked about this, when you find yourself with more free time, and like I work from home, it's not just time switching between the two parts of my business or different tasks. It's emptying the dishwasher and unloading, or folding laundry or whatever, or like feeding the cats or whatever I'm doing. People are like, oh, feeding the cats takes 3 minutes. Like, get up, do it, and sit back down. That is not, it is not simple.
Nope.
The switching of like, my brain power, it
Yep.
takes a minute.
It takes a minute because
Yep.
feeding the cats turns into unloading the dishwasher, turns into, oh, I haven't eaten yet, turns into, right? And then all of a sudden you sit down, you're like, where was I?
Yep. And then it's time to pick up the kids. And then, of course, it's the time where
And then, yeah.
after I feed them, they jump on my lap and I have to pet them for, 25 minutes. So.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So my word here, boundaries. This is where we really, really need boundaries, especially for people like us who work from home. It is a whole other beast. It is a whole other beast.
And people get so excited, like, this is what I worked for, like, more time and blah, blah, blah. And then they feel like they can't manage it. They almost get less done with more time. And they're like,
I hear that a lot too.
I have more time now. My business is not growing. Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
You might be busy, but you're not productive. And
right.
Totally. Did you check any boxes today?
Right.
You worked all day long on stuff. Did you check? Are you done with anything? Did you finish anything? And that's one of the things I love, Atomic Habits. I've read it a few times. And that's one of the big things. Like, are you busy or are you actually productive? Because people are like, I'm so busy and I don't have time for this and time for this. And people are like, oh, wow. Like, what do you have going on over there? And it ends up like they can't finish anything. They have nothing. They've gotten nothing accomplished at the end of the day.
Yeah. And also,
that sucks to be like, you're exhausted. You've done zero.
Yeah. Or not be able to really explain what you did or say what you did. Like, I'm tired, and especially I think for us perfectionist women, overachieving women, right. Who this is who we are. This is how we've been living our entire lives. We are very
like this morning. You're like, do you have ADHD? And I'm like, no, I have like a superwoman complex where the amount of things I have on my list and envision myself getting done during the day is far from what actually happens. So like, I do have a cape on up here, but like in reality, no.
Right. So, And so what happens is we actually become addicted to that. On a subconscious level,
100%.
we very much become addicted to the stress, addicted to becoming busy. And what happens when you make the shift into having more time in your schedule, you really need your nervous system to acclimate to that space, to that. And you need to also switch the mindset of needing to be busy to get anything done, because that will,
or to like validate your day. Like that's the other thing. Like at the end of the day, you're like, for like the validation of like stamp of approval, I did it. You need to feel like you had 700 things that were on the list to start.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. So boundaries, right? So boundaries at home, boundaries at work, and even when you're working in your home, right? So for me personally, what that means is, I don't turn anything on or start doing anything until the kids are off to school. Now, I'm not great at this, but I try, right? So I try not to think or do anything work related until after the kids are off. So then I also say, okay, this is also my time to do anything that has to get done for the house. So if I'm going to empty the dishwasher before work, if I'm going to feed the dog or whatever, like do things before work, it's going to happen before that happens. And then it's work time, right? And then it's work time. And then what I like to do is I have all my tasks. I know what my tasks are because I've done this exercise, right? I know what my admin things are. I know what this is. I know what that is. So then I have them in there and then I click and drag them to my calendar. So then it literally blocks that time off on my calendar. And again, they're coded, right? So I can see, okay, I'm going to put all my admin stuff here, or all this is within this system. So if I, let me do all these things, because if I open up like my CRM, I will get so distracted and like, okay, and I need to follow up to this person. Oh, you know what? I'm sure who opened those emails. I wonder if anybody clicked on those emails. Let me go see. Oh, this person unsubscribed. Oh, let me go take care of that, right? So every day.
Because something makes you think of something else and you're like, real quick, I'm just going to check that quick.
Real quick. There is no real quick. There is no real quick. So it's also about getting real with yourself and understanding how you operate and like really saying like this thing. Something that works for me really well too is timers. So actually having a timer, right? Of like, okay, this is what I said I'm going to do. I'm going to put the thing on the clock, because I could, if let's say I'm teaching a class tomorrow and it's a new class, I haven't taught it before. So I'm putting the lesson plan together. I'm creating the slides, all of that. I will take as much time as you give me to do that. I could do that in 48 hours, or I could get it done in 45 minutes, right? Like, depending on how much time I have to do it. So sometimes, even though maybe you have 48 hours to get it done, you have to give yourself a shorter limit, a shorter time frame in order to actually get it done, right?
Yeah. And
So,
I love what you said about knowing yourself.
yeah.
Yesterday, I was talking about just feeling like slumpy and overwhelmed. It was Monday, and we had like 6 clients from over the weekend that already had their babies and were like, SOS, on top of like the regular Monday matching that I do from like the end of last week, in addition to like what was already on my Monday calendar. And I was like sitting there, like, what do I do first? Like, which is like paralyzing, right? You waste a lot of time. And I know myself, I got up from my chair, took a shower, blew out my hair, like got out of my, yoga pants and like actually got dressed, sat down, and like the trajectory of my day totally changed.
Yes.
So, the other half of my day, and talking about the importance of just knowing what you need for that 180.
Yes.
What will get you up and turned around to continue your day. Because, a shitty morning doesn't have to translate into a shitty day.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't have to continue. You can change,
Absolutely.
what that looks like. But you have to know for yourself what it takes to make that change.
You do, right? You really, really do. And there are so many things, right? And like one thing that that I would recommend too would be have a short list. Have a short list of those, maybe 5 things, like 3 to 5 things that you could do. So, right, like you listed a great one. I do this one too when I need to take a shower, start fresh, right? Just clean it up, wash the energy off, right? Clean it up. Taking a walk, so moving my body. Sometimes doing a meditation, again, depending on what it is. So like having that short list of like those things that you can do.
Sometimes food. Sometimes
sometimes you just need a meal. Yeah, to just nourish yourself. Absolutely. But then giving yourself the limit, because we also have to walk the line of when am I procrastinating? Right? But again, this is where it goes to knowing yourself. And I also have to say, like, this is why having support is really helpful. This is why having a coach or a group community of other people on the same path, that sort of thing, can be really helpful. Because I know
for investing in your success.
It is
investing in the things that you're not great at, that you don't know enough about, and educating yourself, which is investing in, a coach or a course or whatever, to help you with those things that, sort of just drag behind you.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Because I think, coming back to your comment about, the superwoman cape, right, and mentality and syndrome, we really want to believe that we can do all of it and do all of it ourselves.
It's a pitfall of early motherhood too. Like, I will say, it is one of the things that we work with our clients, over and over and over again. Like, we are here so you don't have to do it all, but also like you shouldn't think that you have to do it all. Like, here's the reality of what these first few days and weeks and months are going to look like. How could you do it all? Like, it's not even, possible. And so for you to think that like all these things fall on you, let us, take some of that off your plate, but also let us help you manage your time and expectations for the other things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know we're getting close on time here, so I want to make sure I wrap this part up, because I think this will be really important and bring all the pieces together. Is depending on like, obviously, like what stage of your business you're in, right? Because you could be listening now and you could be just starting in your doula work. You could be scaling with an agency, right? Like, there are so many places in between that you could be. So regardless, if you're finding yourself where you're not growing at the pace that you want to, or you're not using your time and your energy the way that you know that you could and that you're capable of, and that's frustrating you, it starts with really the awareness piece, right? It starts with like making these lists of these things and have to get done within your business, organizing them into categories, because once they're in categories, then you know how to organize them into time blocks. And then you might get to the point and say, you know what, this piece I really don't want to do anymore. Like, this is the piece I really don't like to do. Now you're ready to hire somebody. Now you're ready to hire that bookkeeper, that admin assistant, that social media manager, or whatever. And you know what to delegate to them, because you already have the process written and the steps written down. And Jody and I, you and I were talking about this before, where this is often something that people will outsource too quickly before they really understand their business and what they need. And it ends up being a really big waste of their time and money.
And money. Yep.
Oh God, the amount of money I've spent on VAs and social media managers over the years thinking that's what I needed. Oh, I'm not growing. This is because I'm not doing this so this is what I need. You need to know what you're doing before you pass it off.
I started my podcast with a podcast manager that was a lot of money every month because I assumed that that's what I needed and that I didn't know enough about it. And then as I started doing it and as I started kind of realizing exactly what needed to be done, and I realized how foolish that was, out of the gate. I've wasted a lot of money over the years on things like that, just not educating myself enough or not taking the time in the beginning to figure out all the steps and say, okay, these I can do or I want to do or I'm really good at. This part I don't want to do, I don't have time to do, and I'm not that good at. So it's like, I delegate the things that don't need my face or my personality, but also that either I'm not good at or I just don't want to do. And like, an example is when I first moved everything over to Dubsado, so my client management, could I have done it myself? Probably. I mean, there's like a lot of tutorials. It would have taken me probably a total of 40 hours, somewhere between 30 and 40 hours. I paid someone to do it on 3 to 4 and I sat and watched them and they recorded it. So then I could go back. So I'm saying it's like, I have, my time is so valuable and I was going to waste 30 to 40 hours on that. Like, nope.
And Dubsado's not easy to figure out. Yeah, I had Dubsado for a little bit before the system I have, and I definitely hit walls trying to figure that out.
I'm not a DIYer, but I'm also smart in the things that I'm choosing to delegate. So yeah, sometimes it's worth it, and you have to figure out what the return on that investment is first of all, and can you really afford it? I think one of the traps that doulas fall into a lot, because there are a lot of doulas who will, they book a time with me and they complain they're like working it, they're killing it, but then they have like no money in their bank account, at the end of the month. And we forget we take large deposits from clients sometimes. So sometimes you look at your bank account and you're like, damn, like I'm killing it. And as those clients start their care and that money, boop, 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 like you're like, okay, I didn't account for that. Now I have like $1. That happens a lot. Or like you said, people get into their business, they start getting a lot of clients, expanding a little bit, they're doing amazing. And then they hire, a social media manager for $1,000 a month. Not realizing what is my voice, like who are my new set of clients? Because as my business grows, my ideal client is not the exact same. Like I'm not the exact same. My voice is not the exact same. I'm talking to, the larger pool of people now. I'm connecting with different people now on a different level. And so you're kind of like throwing like, glitter in the air and seeing where it sticks, but you're paying a lot of money every month, before you do that initial research. And then it stinks because you're unhappy with the results, right? Yeah. So you need to figure it out before you start heavy delegation, because you don't know exactly what you need.
Right. Absolutely. 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 And what ends up happening too is when you do try to bring that person on, you spend more time trying to figure out what to give to them, how to teach them to do it. And then now you're falling even further behind because you're trying to do their work, and then you have to go back and check it. And if you're a control freak like I am, I'm like really looking at everything.
But then the answers to the questions they're asking you, you're like, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Right.
And how could you not be sure? It's your own business because you're just not sure yet.
Right. Right.
It's not that you don't know, you just don't know yet.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy to run a successful business until you figure out, what systems to put in place that benefit your clients, benefit you, benefit your time, benefit your bank account. And that in itself takes time. You can't snap and have it all set up.
It's experience. It's experience.
Yes. You need to spend time figuring stuff out. And I think that's the step that people miss.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I know. It's so exciting though. I think, it kills me when people are afraid to succeed. What is that going to look like for me? Do I have the time? Am I smart enough? Like, am I organized enough? Am I going to be working 70 hours a week when I was only working 50 before and I'm trying to, work less? But measure twice and cut once. If you do it right, even if it's a slow process, if you do it right the first time, the success will be something that you can easily take on, right? Success shouldn't bring overwhelm.
No. That's why systems are everything. Yep. Systems, I think, 100%. are really how we find that clarity and how we simplify, so that it's not overwhelming, because we really need it. We really, really need it. Like, we need, my God, not even to get started on this, right? But like, God, the maternal mortality rate, like, in the country and everything else, like, we need people doing this work. Like, we need more people, reaching more families. And
I say it all the time. Like, when I'm working with someone to scale their business, and their whole purpose is to be here for a long time, we need you here for a long time. Like, this is not like, do it for a couple of years and you get burnt out, the money's not great or whatever, you can't find clients. Like, the clients are there, there's ample clients, it can be a very lucrative business. You just have to be smart about it, but you need to be here for a long time. People are not going to stop needing you. And that's the thing. Like, even when the pandemic hit, when everyone else's businesses were struggling, or people aren't sure what the next move was, doulas were like 10xing it. It's like we were able to pivot so quick and figure out what our clients needed and what we were actually able to, offer them. And everyone was so much busier. And it just goes to show that no matter what happens, there will always be a need for birth and postpartum care and, all the support that surrounds that. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. You're amazing. I can't wait to share all of the information just about you and your services in general, but about your course. And I feel like it's one of those things where, there are courses that help people, attain one thing. They have one goal, whether it's, selling a course, or, social media, or whatever it is. But like, your stuff is like, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Like, it helps, you know what I'm saying? Like, it helps you start, but it also helps you evolve, and it helps you with your mastery, and it helps you do the next thing. Like, so it's one of those things where you will utilize this from the moment you start it until forever. Like, you never grow out of needing this.
Yes.
It evolves with you. And that's what I love. I love programs like that, where you can utilize it and still, as you're growing and scaling, and whatever path you take, it's still so relevant.
Yeah. I mean, thank you so much. And that's what I teach my clients all the time. Like, this isn't something you're learning once, because you're not going to do this once. You're going to do this over and over again. So it's about learning the process. And first and foremost, right, always coming back to yourself, like for those answers and for those next steps. And then coming back and actually having a framework to follow, or a process to follow, or something like that, because that you don't know what you don't know. That's it. Like, you just don't know what you don't know. Like, that's it. It's a full statement.
I love and hate that statement.
I know. Same.
Because sometimes, you don't know what you don't know. And it's like, it ends well, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and it ends so poorly, and there's like regret. And I mean, we could just continue to loop this back to, birth and postpartum care, but, having a birth doula, right? Now you know what you otherwise would not have known, and you don't have to look back and have any regret. And that's one of the many reasons why I chose home birth, is because I know me, and, I talk a big game with my colleagues and with you, and I'm so tough and this, that, and the other thing. And I know a lot in front of a white coat. I get very nervous, and I get, I start saying yes to things. I know me. And I needed to take that out of the equation, because the worst thing in the world for me would be to make a decision that didn't align with what I wanted to see happen, and then I have regret.
Yeah.
So I know me on multiple levels. And if that meant taking that entire possibility out of the equation, then it was worth it to me to do that. And for me, that was home birth. And there were so many other reasons. I'm also a homebody, and I didn't want to leave my kids or my pets or any of those things. I didn't want to pack a bag. I'm also very lazy. And so like, but I know me, and I know that there were going to be things that I didn't know. And the thought of that was so scary.
Right.
So I pulled out all the stops, but it is hard going into, starting and running a business, because there's always going to be things that you don't know, but recognizing the need to invest in yourself for those things, and seeing that it is 1000% worth it, because you are worth it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not a huge corporation where someone's, experiencing our product but doesn't know us.
Right.
We are a huge part of the equation. So, we're investing in business stuff, right? But we're also investing in ourselves. And that's a big piece of it. And one of the things, I was just talking about this morning, and then we're going to wrap this up, because this might actually be the longest podcast I've ever recorded. One of the reasons why I put together the CEO Summit, is because I wanted to be somewhere where I was learning about business, right? Growing my business, but also growing myself as the CEO of that business. And the evolution of that is incredible.
Oh yeah.
And I want to embrace every moment of that. Because I am this business. Like, this brand is this.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God. We have like a whole other conversation that we could have around this too, because I'm not even going to start it. We're going to come back. Yeah, we're going to come back.
Stay tuned. But I'm going to wrap this up. Alyssa, you are incredible. I will make sure everybody gets all of your info so they can reach out, and you can help them figure out next steps for their business. But you're awesome. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and keep being bosses.